Well, it's time now for business, and for that I'm joined in the studio by Catherine Bennett. Hi, Catherine.
Hiya.
Catherine, China has just released data which seems to indicate something of a bounce back for the country's economy.
That's absolutely right. So China is one of the few countries that appears to be heading towards an economic recovery from the virus. China has recorded growth of 4.9% in its third quarter. That's compared to the same period last year. And that's a long way from the lows it reached at the beginning of the year in the first few months of the pandemic, when the country's economy shrank by 6.8%. International Monetary Fund forecasts suggest that China will be the only major economy we see expanding in 2020. Trade helped to push those figures up, with exports in September growing by 9.9% and imports by 13.2% compared to last year. Now, that said, it's not as good as expected. It's under the 5.2% that economists had forecast. For more on those figures, we can listen to France 24's Charles Pellegrin.
Well, first and foremost, this is because China has been able to keep transmissions of COVID-19 under control over the past few weeks, few months. The great majority of COVID-19 cases in China have been imported ones. There's only been very few local transmissions, and this has allowed to basically maintain levels of industrial production and to see Chinese exports go up. Some products, especially in high demand around the world right now, like electronics or medical equipment. Obviously, another factor contributing to China's rebound is heavy investment in infrastructure projects around the country. We're seeing new highways, new high-speed train lines being constructed, and obviously as well, you mentioned it earlier, we're seeing also finally a rebound in domestic consumption, which had been lagging. This is especially driven by middle and upper classes. New indicators published this Monday show that in September, retail sales were up 3.3% year on year. So this is leading some analysts to say that China is solidifying its place in the world economy and could contribute as much as 30% of world growth.
Now let's have a look at trading this morning. European indices opening higher this morning, with the FTSE up 0.5% and the CAC 40 and the DAX rising almost 1%. In Asia, mainland Chinese stocks are actually lower on the back of that data coming out of China, with the Shanghai Composite down 0.2%. However, indices in Hong Kong and Tokyo are in positive territory, with the Nikkei up over 1% and the Hang Seng Index up just over 0.5%.
Now, Catherine, we are just weeks away, of course, from the US election, and Republicans and Democrats are still wrangling over a stimulus plan for the country.
Absolutely. Now, the Democratic Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, has issued a deadline for negotiations if the country wants to be able to pass that stimulus bill before the election. The two sides are at loggerheads, with the main obstacle being the size of the plan. Solange Mougin tells us more.
Just the size of the relief fund that's at stake, but how it would play out politically and for struggling Americans. A second stimulus package has been deadlocked in Congress for months. And now the clock's ticking. Nancy Pelosi said there needs to be an agreement in the next 48 hours for a bill to go through before the election. She said the size and the language of the bill remain major sticking points.
I'm optimistic, because again, we've been back and forth on all of this. You know legislation. Shall is different from may.
The boost provided last March with the $1.8 trillion CARES Act has helped the U.S. economy. But lawmakers feel another relief package is sorely needed to keep consumer spending up. The Democrats have proposed an over $2 trillion package, but many Republicans in the Senate would prefer a so-called skinny bill. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has reversed course. Earlier this month, he abandoned talks. Now he said he wants to go even bigger than the Democrats.
Nancy Pelosi, maybe he's coming along. We'll find out. We want to do it. I want to do it at a bigger number than she wants. That doesn't mean all the Republicans agree with me, but I think they will in the end. If she would go along, I think they would too.
But the chances of a major stimulus package passing before November 3rd are fading. Republicans, Democrats, and the White House all have very diametrically different views about how to help Americans financially push through the coronavirus economic downturn.
And to end from you, Catherine, the UK is facing shortages of a vital consumer good. What is that?
Well, it is a vital consumer good. This is a disaster for people who are working from home in the UK, as the country could be facing a shortage of tracksuit bottoms. But it's not just tracksuit bottoms, it's also leggings, yoga pants, hoodies, trainers, anything comfortable, essentially. Retailers were taken by surprise earlier in the year as demand surged for comfortable clothing during lockdowns across the globe. And on top of that demand, many factories in countries like Vietnam, Bangladesh and Indonesia were forced to close during their own lockdowns. ASOS is one online retailer that says it has less stock than usual because of this worldwide shortage. And the company says the drops in supply are unlikely to be solved until next year. Which is sad news for all of us who are working from home. I need my leggings.
It is, although if you are only doing Zoom meetings, don't forget you don't need to wear any trousers at all.
That's true.
Catherine Bennett with a look through the business news. Thank you very much. And it's time now for another look